So I got just a whole bunch of terms here. And I put them roughly in order of importance, like how to win a fight in Overwatch. In my opinion, map control is the most important part of it. And of map control, your positioning matters the most, and your rotations matter second. The next most important thing is resource management. Third most important thing, in my opinion, is mechanical skill in this game, which includes both your aim and your movement. Next is awareness, game sense, and maybe I should move that higher up. That might actually be more important than mechanical skill. I would put these two equal. You can get to diamond with mechanical skill or awareness and game sense, one or the other, but you can't really get past diamond without some amount of both. And then finally, luck. Luck is a factor in this game. Shit happens. Sometimes they're just, like, things you can't really account for. But that should be the absolute minimal factor. Can you put this in the Discord? Yeah, for sure. So, let's start with defining these. So, like, cover is pretty obvious. Cover is anything you can stand behind that can't be shot through. And in this game, that's almost everything. Like, I think they can shoot through the bushes or whatever, but, like, you can't shoot through walls in this game. Walls are forever. Walls are your best friend. Walls don't let you down. Walls don't drop so they can throw a fire strike. Walls don't break. Walls. High ground. I'm going to show you a thing about high ground that's really important. High ground is a form of cover in and of itself. Because if anyone's on the low ground, all you have to do is back up, and the floor of your high ground becomes your cover from them. And you can walk forward and back as far as you want to peek whoever you want. Like, for as long as there's room on the high ground. You say walls don't drop, but I'm out here playing Busan Mecha Base? Okay, those walls have fucked me over more than once. I'm like, oh good, cover. Oh no. Yeah. High ground. Super important. Other things that are great about high ground, other than its natural cover. It gives you more sightlines. You can just see more of the map. You have more choices to make. You understand more of what's going on. It's harder for the enemy to get to you. They either have to use mobility, spend cooldowns, or spend time to get here. Meanwhile, once they finally get here, you can just drop, which means they spent all that time for nothing. So you don't have to hold a high ground forever against all odds. You just have to make them take it from you rather than give it to them for free. Yeah? What else? Oh, right. It is easier to shoot down on somebody than up onto somebody. It's easier to land the headshots shooting down than shooting up. Their head is larger relative to the size of their body, shooting down versus shooting up. And it also gives you better rotation options. So, if I don't know, this might be a bad example, but this one in particular is kind of a bad example, but the idea is I could drop off here, or I could drop off here, or I could drop off here, like, wherever the hell I want, on top of whoever I want. Trying to think if there's anything else. There's probably more to high ground. There's so many advantages to high ground. It is criminal how few people take the high ground below, like, Masters. Diamond. I honestly, like, with okay mechanics, not even good mechanics, just like mediocre, decent mechanics, all you need to do is stand on high grounds all the time forever to walk into plat. Like, I swear to God. This is what it is. This is plat right here, is being on high grounds. Obviously, there is a lot more to the game, but high grounds are just inherently so powerful, and you're just leaving so much power on the table. Choke. Pretty obvious. Here's a choke. The thing about a choke is a funnel. It funnels the enemy who are in this wide open space into a narrow area that they have to pass through before they can spread out again. So what you want is to throw as much fire as you can through the choke to make it hell for them to walk through. When they're in this small, tiny area, it's hard for them to avoid it all. What that means is if you walk through the choke, you have lost all choke advantage. If the enemy walks through the choke, you have lost all choke advantage. The advantage of the choke exists inside of the choke and nowhere else. Specifically, the enemy being inside of the choke. So, like, if you're like a Rhine, for example, or like Monkey also, like maybe you want to hold close up here, like whatever, to make it hard for them to push through while your team standing in other places spams through. Maybe you want to do that. But maybe you don't. Maybe for whatever reason, it is not safe for you to be playing this close to the choke. So you don't have to be there. You just have to be able to shoot through it. And you have choke advantage. You won't have as much time with choke advantage because you're holding back. They'll be able to get through rather quickly. But if you're concentrating enough fire through it or stacking your cooldowns or whatever, like, who cares? You can blow people up. Aw, thanks so much for the follow, Dext. Okay. Oh, and I got a lot of these, so I'm going to run through them fairly quickly, and then I'm going to hopefully talk about how they, like, combine. Oh, thanks for the follow, Stevio. But if you want me to, like, slow down on any of these, if you have any questions about any of these, if you need me to repeat something or explain something in a different way, advance, thanks. Anyway, please let me know, because, like, mostly I want you to understand these terms, because if you understand all of these terms, understanding the strategy of this game becomes so much easier. It really does. So, if there's a bit here that, like, you're like, what the fuck did I just say? Let me know, and I'll do better. Better that you get this stuff now before I start going even deeper. Spacing. So spacing is how far you want to play from a particular player on your team or the enemy team, depending. So, Sigma, for example, I forget what the range is on his primary fire. I think it's 20 meters. Your spacing should be roughly 20 meters from the enemy front line or choke or wherever it is you're trying to spam or do damage. Whoever you're trying to shoot, you want to be at the edge of your range because your primary fire self-destructs and does a small AoE. So if it's right at range and you miss them, they'll still get damaged by it if you don't miss by too much. Yeah? And then if they walk towards you, you back up. If they back up, you walk forward. So that spacing between them stays the same. Maybe you're an Ana and you need to worry about your spacing with your Reinhardt. So you're not so far away that you can't rotate with him, but not so close that you're in danger. So you find a spacing that works for you, that situation, that map, and then you work to try to roughly maintain that spacing. Ryan moves forward, you move forward with him, and back. Check out A10 Soldier on Break to GM. It explains all the vocab and stuff. Why would I do that when I got Not Toxic doing a great job explaining it? Aw, thanks. Honestly, though, A10's Unranked, there's a lot of good shit in there that I found very vindicated, because I keep hearing A10 say things that I have been saying for a while. So that feels really good because he is somebody who definitely for sure knows more than I ever will about this game. Anyway, spacing. That, angle, lane, and zone control. 3 variations on the same thing. So, we talked about the lanes. Yeah. 3 lanes, or whatever. There are some maps that have 2 in, like, a part of it, or whatever. So, lane control is looking to hold one of these lanes, one of these paths that the enemy can take. Really, really important to do. Tanks should be looking to do this, and DPS should be looking to do this. Not all DPS all of the time, but yeah. Anyway, zone control would be like controlling this open space here, this zone. Anyone who enters this zone, I'm on them. And this is usually better for like short range players. So if you had a Ryan right here, or actually, let's make this relevant to this map. Ryan's right here. So Ryan is controlling this zone. It's not a big zone. He can't really do much about anything else, but it's an important zone, and he can control it. More or less, yeah? And then angle control would be like if you're a Zen, for example, or an Ana, playing back here, looking to spam these angles that cross multiple lanes and sight lines. And angle control can be really strong because, like that angle I just crossed, here's potential to shoot them, here it is again, here it is again. Like, trying to get to the point, they have to walk through your spam 3 times to get through the point, and you didn't have to change your aim at all. By that same token, making your angles as narrow as possible is really good. So if this choke is your angle, they can just stand here or stand here to dodge your shit. Like, you have such a wide area, it's easy for somebody to dodge it. But if you're at an angle where that choke becomes narrow, and you shoot through this way, your fire actually ends up crossing the entire choke. So anyone who walks through anywhere is at risk. Yeah? So depending on your hero, depending on what your team's doing, enemy, map, like blah, 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 all of the billion factors in this game, you should be looking for one of those 3 things with your positioning. Can I hold a lane? Can I hold an angle? Am I holding a zone? Yeah? Take less poke, win more games? Yes. And by that same token, do more poke, win more games. I'm going to get into that when I get into rotations. That's a big thing about rotations. Okay, I'm just going to move this over here. Although, pressure. So pressure kind of piggybacks off of angle, lane, zone control. And it sometimes called poke, but like, I think pressure is a better term because that's what you're doing. You are making it difficult for them to push through an area, something. Like, they take a bunch of damage if they do. Almost every hero in the game should be outputting pressure in some way. Even like Ana, who can do damage, your anti-nades is a huge amount of pressure. Zen spamming an angle, Bap spamming Widow holding a sight line, Junkrat spamming a choke, whatever. That is all pressure. Nothing much to that one. That was just like terminology. An off angle. So this is one I think people get a little bit confused by. Most people mostly get it. But an off angle is anything at all that is not the main angle. It is not a hard flank. It could be. Wait, check your server, please. What's going on with the server? Oh, show on stream to embarrass Zeta? Okay. Let me finish this section, and then we're going to take a break to embarrass people. Okay. So, I think a lot of people think when you say, tell a DPS they need to off-angle more, they think, oh shit, well, I need to be hard flanking the backline. And that's not... I mean, maybe that's true, but that's not necessarily the thing. If... Whoop. And this was from, a previous meta. If you got your Orisa holding here, Ashe being up here is an off angle. You are basically directly above and behind your shield, but because you're shooting down and above, it's not the same angle. This is an off angle. You can be as far from the main angle or as close to it as you want to be or think you can or need to be. The value you get from the off angle is somewhat related to how far it is from the main angle, but so a lot of people have seen me draw this diagram, but I'm going to do it again. Enemy team, they're doing whatever. Your team, they're doing whatever. You on an off angle, on whatever hero, who cares? Any individual on the enemy team can turn to look at you, shoot back at you, hide from you, heal the damage you're dealing, in some way deal with you, or they can physically turn to look at somebody else. They cannot physically face two directions at the same time and deal with them simultaneously. So that means they either have to split their attention, try to focus one side or the other while the other side is free to shoot them in the back, or option 3, back up far enough that these two angles become comparatively one. So if you're close to your team, it's a little bit of pressure, but it's probably not going to push them back very far. If you're split, the further you split, the further back they have to move. Yeah? And so treating this as a process, starting with your team and looking to split a little bit and split further and split further and split further while you continue to output pressure, will significantly help your team push and push the enemy team back. Very good explanation, my good sir. Aw, thanks. I've been toying with this one for a while. But yeah. There's a whole lot of factors that go into this. So part of why you want to make this a process, is if you just if you just start, here, then maybe you're far enough from your team and that they can just kill you and then turn around and take a 6v5 without having to deal with it. Instead, you want them to be in a position where if they turn to deal with you, your team is close enough to just walk into them from behind and kill them. They're pinched. And if they turn to deal with your team, then you're in their backline free to do whatever. But you can't be so far from your team that they can just cut you off and deal with you. So there's the trick of the whole thing. And why I say, making it a gradual process is really good. And also, the thing with that gradual process splitting out can also come back in gradually. If the enemy team is counter-pushing, you should look to get closer to your team. Because getting closer helps concentrate fire, keeps you safer, makes it harder for you to get cut off. You still want to... Oh, and as they're getting closer to your team, closer angles are Oh my god, how do I explain this? Holy shit. This is such confusing phrasing, but like, as they move closer, your angle becomes bigger, which means, because like, if you're here, and they're here, and then they move to here, your angle's bigger, yeah? So that means you can move closer and have your angle be the same. So you're still outputting pressure to help push them back while getting closer to your team so you don't get cut off. I really hope that made sense. That last little bit, I'm not sure how else to words that one, to be honest. Whew. Okay. The power of off angles. That was a really big one. Next I have is bait. A lot of people don't really get how to bait. There's a couple of ways. The easiest way, by far, that will work until a pretty absurdly high elo is simply make it the path of least resistance. So, whoop. There we go. If, let's say you want to take a fight right here, you want to make the enemy push through the choke, and then the second they are clear of choke, but are caught in open space and haven't been able to do anything about it, that's when we're going to take our fight. That's what we've decided, yeah? So, to get them here, first off, if we know this is where we want to take the fight, then we can get people in positions surrounding that area in advance. And then, whoever was holding here, after everyone's gotten our position, leaves. Just fucks off. Backs up. You can make it look more convincing, which will be more important in higher elos, like let them damage you, get you low, and then back up, because then they might tunnel and chase the kill. That can be really strong too. A little bit risky. But if you make this the easy place to go, but you hold here, and you hold somebody here, like, most of the time, most teams won't, push this guy off, or push this guy out, or whatever, so they can have map control. They'll walk right into your trap and die. Baiting is so easy until you get to a really high elo. You just have to let them walk in. The hard part is knowing where you want to take a fight, and then getting your team to actually take the fight there. But I digress. Kill box. Next term. A kill box, I've defined this a different way, but I've defined it in a more Overwatch way in the past. I'm going to define this more accurately, which is a kill box is any place you want to take a fight. It's what I just described. It is somewhere where you want to kill people. Your kill box is where you think the fight should take place. I'm just listening to this while doing Mercy Super Jump Res practice. Nice. Awesome. The Overwatch definition I've been giving it is a low ground surroundable by high grounds. That's not necessarily a requirement. That's just the way Overwatch maps are designed, is they just have all of these areas that are low grounds without cover that the enemy has to touch or cross through that are surroundable by high grounds with cover. All of these maps are easier to defend than attack. Straight up. Yeah. Oh, and then the last one for this section. Power positions. Power positions are known places that are really, really strong. Paris is one massive kill, but man, Paris, in my opinion, was so close to being an excellent map. It really was. It's just so much wasted space because, yeah, it's one massive kill box. There's so few areas where a team would actually want to hold, that most of the map is just wasted space. And that's so sad because like all those streets that no one ever uses were really cool. I thought, I have no idea how they're reworking Paris, but I hope they rework it into an escort map. That's what it should have been. Like, reworking that map into an escort map, I think would be really fun. Power positions, being on a team with that freak show guy. Anyway, some of these power positions are more contextual. Some of them are just like, some spots on some maps are just too strong. Like, you just have to be here all of the time. Trying to think of a good power position on this map. And actually, where'd my mouse go? Come back, mouse. There you are. Gibraltar is, I think, the biggest example of this. Paris push. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Take the map, shrink it a little bit, and then double it so you can have it like mirrored on each side, because I think that's how the push works, is it's mirrored bilaterally. But anyway.
Arriving at Watchpoint Gibraltar.
Okay. So, what? Apparently I can't fly through things. We'll get to ship in a second. Gibraltar is famous for a couple of power positions. The first one is blue box. He who controls blue box controls first point. Almost across the board. If you have people up here on this box, or more often next to it, like this, you control all this shit. And it's just so hard to get to you. Like, to get up here, if you don't have mobility, you have to jump on this, onto this, and then onto this. Like, meanwhile, you can, like, run around this box fully. This edge is a little bit tricky. You have to hold D as you're running around this way, or if you want to come this way, A. But so long as you're holding that and jumping, you can, like, jump, 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 and make it around. Yeah, blue box, very famous power position. The other one is ship. Controlling ship controls second point, because here is every single way they can get to this point after the carts move through and these gates have closed. Here is all 4 chokes. They are tiny, and you can see all 4 of them at the same time from this ship. If you are on top of the ship, it's so hard for the attacking team. Knowing about these power positions means, obviously, if you're defending, you look to hold them. But, like, let's say you're attacking. If you win this first point, you very, very aggressively want to push. Quickly and aggressively. Push, clean up staggers, whatever. And then get some people, at least, on top of this ship ASAP before their respawns can come and start setting up on here and try to take it from you. Because if you let them take this for their regroup, they're going to stop the cart somewhere here-ish, and it's never going to move again. It's never going to really get past this corner if they control the top of the ship. If it gets that far at all. It's just so strong. So anyway, those are power positions. Rather than... I mean, so, like, it's good to know them because it makes some of these maps easier. You just know, oh, I should go control the top of the ship. But the better skill is being able to identify them on your own. What makes them such a powerful position? And typically, one factor is it's the highest of the high grounds. There is no ground higher than it. It has vast sight lines, it's difficult to get to, and it has lots of options for cover or escape. Going to become a pro Mercy main from Zarya OTP because of these super jumps? Yeah, that's all it takes, is just good super jump. Okay, and then we're going to talk about rotations, and then we're going to watch a funny. First thing about rotations is ebb and flow. So there's this... it's pretty self-explanatory. Rather than... like, a lot of players get either hold this position. Whether or not they know what a good position is or not, who knows? Maybe it's a great position. But wherever they are, that's their spot, and they're sticking there, come hell or high water. Rather than we're holding our spot, we get some kind of an advantage on the team, so we push. We go more aggressive, and we try to push into them. But then the enemy team, gets some resources back, and we don't have an advantage anymore, and maybe they get an advantage, or maybe they ult back at us, or whatever. Or they throw a lamp. You get the idea. So we back up, we get our resources back, or we wait for lamp to end, or whatever, and then when we get our next trigger, we walk in, and then back, and then in. And getting really good at this is just such a good skill, because it maximizes your uptime while minimizing your deaths. As you can push in and do more, you push in and do more. As you can't, you pull back so you live and can push back in sooner. It really maximizes your output. Very, very good to do. Kiting. There was a question about defining kiting as a team versus, individuals. I'm going to listen to this like a podcast in the shower. Awesome. So kiting is maintaining your spacing, maintaining distance with the enemy to try to pull them along somewhere. Similar to baiting. You don't always have to pull them along. In World of Warcraft, I believe is where the term originated. Kiting, because you're treating the enemy mob like a kite. By staying... World of Warcraft, they'd have, you would draw aggro from the monster, so it would start chasing you. And then you would make sure you stay close enough to them that the aggro stays pointed at you, so they keep chasing you. But not so close they can actually kill you. Yeah? So, same thing. You want to keep the enemy... You want to be close enough to the enemy that you can do things, but not so close that they can kill you, and as they push, you pull back. It's part of ebb and flow, it's part of baiting, part of your rotations. It's just another term, kiting. Whoop. I'm meant to do that. Let me show you something real important about kiting, though. Let's ignore everything I said about this. This is the map in front of us, so I'm just using this to illustrate my point right now. Not saying this is what you would necessarily do on this point. But let's say we're playing Orisa. Orisa is a spam hero. You want to maximize your spam uptime. Orisa, she has Fortified, but otherwise, it's a projectile, so it doesn't have fall off. You want to keep her at range. You don't want to let the enemies walk up on her. Same with Sigma. They want to spam from range and kite. So you got your double shields down here, whatever. The enemy pushes the cart, or is pushing the cart, and you're shooting them. And as the cart moves and is walking towards you, you're just backing up. You're maintaining roughly the same distance, and you're shooting them, and you're backing up. And maybe you drop a shield on this corner, and you're shooting them, and you're shooting them, and you pull them back, and you're shooting them. And then as they start to get close to you, you back up more. And more. And more. And more. And more. And more. Until just before they cap the point, and then you touch it. Just before they cap. Everything up until they cap does not matter. What matters is you maximize your spam output, and don't let them walk on top of you and kill you, and you will ideally wear down their resources and win the fight. That's kind of how... Kiting and spacing, similar concepts? Yeah, exactly. So, with knowing all this, ebb and flow, kiting, pressure, spacing, all of that, angle, lane, zone control, all these things that we talked about. There is a huge amount of value teams leave on the table all of the time because they try to just hold the good positions and they don't really know how to rotate between positions. And this is something that will benefit you as an individual regardless of your teammates, knowing this. It's obviously best if you can get your whole team going with you, but like ranked is a shit show, and it will benefit you, even if you're the only one in the lobby doing it. And that is maximize your damage output. Yeah, your time up, your damage output. So, as an example, this isn't where you would want to hold. I think a lot of people also get this wrong because, like, they see high-level streamers. For example, maybe somebody's holding up here to start. They're just starting here for early damage. They're not intending to hold here, but they're maximizing their damage output. Teams just coming out of spawn. It doesn't matter that they don't have good positioning right now. They don't need it. So they just, like, do some spam, do some damage, whatever, and then they leave. And they back up. And then they take a different position. And then they back up. And then, like, if they get an advantage, they push forward. And then they push forward. And then they back up some more. And back up some more. And you're never looking to just hold your spot. You're looking to flow between positions. From spot to spot to spot to spot. So you can be doing damage the whole time. It blows my mind how many players I have to tell to keep shooting. But, like, if you see a shield, don't care. You see a tank, full health, all their resources, don't care. Keep shooting. Obviously, some targets matter more than others, and if you have the luxury, you should go for them. But first and foremost, beyond looking for the targets you should be going for, is you should just straight up be shooting your goddamn gun all the time. If all 6 of you are shooting in the same basic direction, if somebody on the enemy team walks through that choke or that angle, whatever, they just blow up and die. You melt shields. If it doesn't matter that you're, like Lucio. Honestly, one of the major changes that got me to plat on Lucio from silver was spamming, non-stop spamming shields. I stopped trying to frag. My playstyle has changed, don't worry. But, like, this, I'm just saying, like, this is such a big thing that this was enough to carry me 800 SR, was to stop trying to frag the things that I could frag, and instead, non-stop shoot shields all the time forever. Because even though I'm Lucio, I can't really break a shield on my own. If other people on my team are shooting them, my damage contributes to that shield breaking that much faster, which benefits the entire team. Don't take the wrong thing away from that. I'm not saying you should just immediately start spamming shields. What I'm saying is don't be afraid to shoot a shield because it is value. It's good. It is good to shoot shields. It's just not as good as some other things. So, especially like at ranges that might not be the best for your hero, like where it's hard to land your shots, it's impossible to miss a shield. And it's very difficult to miss a tank. So it's more consistent value to be going for those. If I'm Lucio with my slow-ass projectile and I'm spamming from range, I can't shoot Liana in the back anyway unless she's hard-scoped. So shoot the shield, because I can't miss the shield, and it's just consistent value. Doing some shield break. And so, like, combining those two concepts, the non-stop shooting with the good ebb and flow where you're just constantly able to do something, means your output will go through the roof. And if your output goes through the roof, all other things being equal, you're going to climb. Because you're doing everything else you were doing, you're just now also doing more. Okay. There were 3 other terms about rotations that I wanted to talk about, and then we're going to take a break. They're pretty quick. One is a pinch. Pretty simple. Enemy team, somebody comes from one side, somebody comes from the other. This is also known as a pincer maneuver. This is like a classic military tactic for a reason. It's incredibly powerful. If everyone is here, all going the same way, then everyone on this team is here, all looking the same way. And you're just taking a 6v6 fight. And you're taking a 6v6 fight that requires your team on the whole to be better than their team on the whole. And I don't like taking those fights. I like taking the fights where I can beat people who are in other ways significantly better than I am. Because, like, I just have a better understanding of tactics than a lot of players in this game. So, it's the same with off-angling. They can look this way or they can look this way. But with a pinch, it's like a full 180 degrees. They have to turn their back on their own teammates. They don't even know what's going on with their team to turn and deal with what's going on behind them. And vice versa. So, like, a pinch can be so strong with good timing. Timing is really important. Because, like, you know, your team's here, enemy team pushes in, and just as the enemy Reinhardt starts swinging on your team, suddenly his supports turn 180 degrees away from him and look at the Tracer on their backline instead. This Ryan just walked into 5 people swinging and he suddenly doesn't have heals. Doesn't matter if you as Tracer on the backline actually accomplish anything at all. You've done your job. Who cares if you kill anything? You just got this Ryan killed because you got the supports to turn around at the right time. Yeah. Flank. I put flank in rotations versus positions because it is the idea, the difference between an off angle and a flank, or a major difference, is an off angle, you can still get help from teammates. You can still see all or at least some of your team. There's a support that can heal you, or a DPS or an off tank that can come back you up, or whatever. Yeah? If you are on a flank, you are on your own. You live and die by your own sword. Your team can't help you, and you can't expect them to help you because you are off on a flank. You are somewhere out where they can't help you. So flanking is high risk, but it can be really strong. You have to flank, or like flanking lets you get pinches in, for example. Flanking also lets you get the same effect as a pinch without necessarily having to pinch them. So, like, let's say you got enemy team kind of spread out a little bit like this. And yeah, your team over here, and you go on a flank over here. Well, like, it's not really a pinch, whatever. And, like, the engagement hasn't even necessarily started. Maybe these guys are still walking in. But as they're walking in, this guy turns around to deal with you. And then this guy has to turn around to help him, to, like, heal him. And meanwhile, your team just walks in for free because, like, these guys are screwed. Yeah? So, flanking is kind of the same as pinching in concept. And the timing is really, really important. And understanding that you're on your own here. It's an incredibly powerful move for you to make, like, as a DPS especially. But you are on your own. So it's not always going to be the right move. And then the last one is resource advantage. So resource advantage is sort of like generic for... typically, you'll talk about a more specific sort of advantage. So enemy team has speed advantage. That means they have a Lucio who has amp available. And you do not. Either you don't have a Lucio, or your Lucio has already blown amp or is dead or whatever. They have speed advantage. They can amp speed into you, and you can't kite away to match them. Yeah? So, knowing if they have speed advantage informs your rotations and your ebb and flow. You can't hold as close to them because they can run over you. So you have to hold further back. You have to rotate out sooner, etc. Versus if you have speed advantage over them, you can hold even closer, do even more because you can just run around them. Why Lucio can be so goddamn strong. But other things, lamp advantage, shield advantage, bubble advantage. You can use those advantages as a trigger. So like lamp advantage is a pretty common trigger to go aggro in a neutral fight in high elos. What all those words I just said means is if no one has ultimates, it's probably like the first fight of the game, and you're just running into each other for the first time, and the enemy team has to use lamp and you still have yours, we have lamp advantage, push, 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 and your team just goes super aggro right into them, knowing that your BAP is going to lamp you as soon as you guys start getting low, and buy you a few more seconds to kill them. Speed advantage, you can run over them. Shield advantage, you get a free shot or a free ult off or whatever. So yeah, it's mostly the idea of paying attention to what resources you have and what resources the enemy team has, and how those resources affect your positioning. Because this game is complicated.